The 12th Courtroom, Part 1, The Summons. Some nights are not dark, they are empty. The streetlights flicker, but give no warmth. The wind doesn't blow, yet the windows shiver. You stare, not at anything, but into nothing. That was the night it began. You were staring into a void. Time had stopped inside your apartment. The calendar on your fridge remained stubbornly fixed on March, but the air outside was thick with the heat of late July. Days blurred, stretched, then collapsed into each other like half-remembered dreams. You were alone, or at least that's what you told yourself. The television hummed, silent, as if muted by some unseen force. Then it appeared. No doorbell, no mail slot, no footsteps. A black envelope lay on the coffee table. Beside a broken remote, a photograph of a woman whose eyes were scratched out, and an ashtray filled with shredded nails. Your name was written on the front, no return address, no stamp. Just your name, typed in a cold, serious font, like official summons. You didn't open it. Something inside you said to wait. Fear or recognition? You weren't sure. All day the envelope waited. Its presence twisted the air, thickened the silence. The ceiling seemed lower, the chair harder. That night, your dream changed. You found yourself in a courtroom, but it wasn't like any you'd ever seen. The clock on the wall spun backwards. The judge's bench wasn't a man, but a mass of shifting shadows. You sat bound in the witness chair, unable to move your hands. You could feel heat, searing heat, because you were burning. But still, you smiled, because you believed you deserved it. Morning came. The envelope was still there, but the silence had changed. Walls throbbed like a heartbeat. Faucets in the kitchen turned on and off on their own. And you knew you couldn't wait any longer. You opened the envelope. It wasn't paper, it wasn't ink, it was skin. A single human fingertip, sliced clean at the joint, pressed into a wax seal stamped with a crimson X. You laughed, but not because it was funny, but because something dead and rotten inside you recognized it. It was yours. Scrawled inside the envelope in a handwriting that wasn't quite human was a message. Return to the place of judgment. Midnight, August 12th, seat 12. No address, no map. But you knew exactly where to go. The old courthouse on Mercy Hill had been closed for decades. Since the fire, since your testimony, since the day justice turned to ash. People said no bodies were ever found, but you knew better. You were there. You remembered the screaming, and how when the judge struck the final gavel, the walls themselves caught flame. The night of August 12th, you arrived early. The courthouse loomed ahead, blackened stone still cracked and half collapsed. The scent of smoke and ash lingered in the air, thick and stubborn. The gates were locked tight, but the doors stood open. Not physically open, but open like a wound. You stepped inside. Silence swallowed you whole. Portraits lined the walls. Judges of old, their faces scratched away except for one. Justice M. Voren. His eyes followed you with terrible accusation. You walked the echoing halls. Your footsteps made no sound. Pews lay broken. The jury boxes were empty but held shadows, watching. At the end of the hall was a door. Heavy, scorched black. Marked Courtroom 12. You stepped inside. The courtroom was full, but no one moved. Figures sat in silence, faces hidden in shadows. All eyes fixed on you. A single chair in the center bore your name. You sat. The doors slammed shut behind you. Then he appeared. The judge. No footsteps, no entrance. He simply was. His robes hung in tatters. His face was a blur, as if your mind refused to form it. His voice cracked like ice breaking. Court is now in session. You stand accused by yourself. Do you plead guilty or unaware? You tried to speak, but no sound came. The judge's head tilted. Silence. Then we proceed to evidence. The walls lit up with faces, friends betrayed, lovers abandoned, children forgotten. Pages of your sins read aloud by voices not your own. Mirrors surrounded you. Fractured versions of yourself stared back. Some crying, some screaming, some smiling with blood on their teeth. One cracked mirror showed the courtroom burning. Inside you melted, still smiling, because you thought you deserved it. Part 2. The evidence. The silence after the judge's words was suffocating. The air thickened as if the very walls were leaning in to listen. Your heart pounded so loud you could hear it, a relentless drumbeat echoing inside your chest. Then the shadows stirred. One by one, the figures in the gallery lifted their heads. Their faces remained hidden in darkness, but their eyes gleamed, hollow and accusing. The judge opened a massive tome, its pages yellowed and cracked. Each leaf seemed to whisper secrets long buried. His skeletal fingers traced the ink lines. First evidence, he intoned, the betrayal of trust. From the shadows, a woman stepped forward. Her face was pale, eyes infinite and empty like deep wells. She placed an object on the judge's desk, a small broken toy, charred and cracked. Something inside you twisted. You knew that toy, though you couldn't place when or where. The woman spoke without moving her lips. He promised safety. He failed. The toy pulsed with a dull, fiery glow. The courtroom seemed to breathe around it. The judge nodded and flipped the page. Second charge, abandonment. A second figure entered, older, tired. A man in a worn suit carrying a briefcase filled with forgotten chances. He sat across from you. His eyes were full of regret and dust. The judge's voice echoed again. Do you recognize the defendant? You nodded. The man was who you could have been. The man you never allowed yourself to become. The gallery whispered as the jury hissed, not with anger, but disappointment. Then a third shadow appeared, a child no older than 10, clutching a torn notebook soaked in rain. The child read a single line, I promised I'd never be like him. Your own voice echoed from the child's mouth. You squeezed your eyes shut, but the words burned inside you. The judge closed the book slowly. The trial has only begun. The mirrors around the courtroom began to flicker. They showed you moments you wished to forget, faces of people you ignored, cries you dismissed, promises broken like glass. Each reflection was a truth you buried deep beneath lies and smiles. The judge leaned forward. Will you answer for your sins? You wanted to say yes. You wanted to scream for mercy, but your mouth remained sealed. A cold wind swept through the room. The flames behind the judge danced wildly, casting twisted shadows that morphed into faces. Faces of those you hurt. They whispered your failures, your cowardice, your silence. The jury stood. 12 voices, low and unyielding. Guilty! The gavel struck. The sound shattered the silence like a whip cracking through fog. You were sentenced to remember, forever. Part 3. The sentence. The gavel's echo still lingered when the walls began to close in. The courtroom warped, turning into a maze of corridors lined with cracked mirrors. Your reflection multiplied endlessly, each one screaming a different regret. You tried to stand, but your legs felt like lead, your breath caught in a cage of memories you couldn't escape. Then the judge's voice, cold and distant, filled the air. Your sentence is not death, but remembrance. A door appeared in front of you, black, heavy, covered in ancient runes. You stepped through. The room beyond was a prison of memories. Walls were made of photographs, frozen moments of pain and failure. Each frame trapped a sound, a scream, a plea, a broken promise. You walked slowly, the floor creaking beneath you. A child's laugh echoed from the shadows. You recognized it, your own laughter, innocent and untainted. But as you turned, the laughter twisted into sobs. You saw yourself, a younger version, hiding behind a door while the world burned. You reached out, but the child vanished like smoke. The judge's voice whispered again, you will carry these memories until the end of your days. Suddenly you felt a weight on your chest, heavy, crushing. Your hands went numb. You realized the briefcase from before was in your grasp. You opened it. Inside were fragments of your life, broken friendships, missed chances, words left unsaid. Each piece stabbed deeper than the last. You fell to your knees. The shadows gathered, pressing closer. A final mirror appeared, cracked and flickering. You looked into it. The reflection wasn't yours, and it was the courtroom burning again. And inside you melted, but still smiled, because you thought you deserved it. Part 4. The Bailiff's Shadow. The echo of your fall faded, swallowed by the cold darkness of the next chamber. The walls pulsed with a rhythmic tapping, like knuckles knocking from within the wood. A figure emerged from the shadows. The bailiff, not quite human, yet not a ghost. Draped in a robe darker than night, his face hidden behind a cracked porcelain mask. He spoke without moving his lips. You carry the sentence, but who will bear the burden? His voice seeped into your mind like poison. Before you could answer, he extended a hand, revealing a set of scales. One side weighed your memories, the other, your regrets. You must choose what to carry forward. You reached out, trembling, and touched the scales. They shifted. The memories grew heavier. The regrets began to glow. A whisper came from the shadows. Balance is the key to freedom. The bailiff vanished, leaving behind a cold silence. You were alone again, trapped between past and future. The mirrors flickered once more, showing glimpses of lives you might have led. Paths taken and paths abandoned. Every choice, every chance missed, stacked like stones pressing down on your soul. You understood then, this trial wasn't just about judgment, it was about reckoning. The courtroom's fire rekindled, flames licking at your feet. But this time, the burning wasn't punishment, it was purification. You closed your eyes and smiled. Part 5. The Witnesses. The flames subsided, revealing a new scene. Before you stood a line of figures, witnesses of your life. Each one held a story, a memory, a truth you had buried. The first was a friend you betrayed. Her eyes were hollow, filled with silent accusations. She spoke without words, her gaze piercing your soul. The second, a lover abandoned, his face twisted in pain, the echoes of your promises broken hanging between you. The third, a stranger you ignored on a cold night. Their presence was a shadow, fading but unforgettable. One by one, they stepped forward, recounting moments when you chose yourself over others. You listened, heart pounding. Their stories were not accusations, but reflections of who you were and who you feared becoming. The judge appeared again, robes flowing like smoke. The court is not merely to punish, he said, voice like cracking ice, but to reveal, to show the fractures beneath the surface, to strip away the lies and face the truth. A child stepped forward last, clutching a torn notebook soaked with rain and tears. They looked at you with eyes full of hope and fear. I believed in you, the child whispered, and you let me down. You felt the weight of their words, a crushing sorrow, but also a flicker of something else, redemption. Part 6. The Verdict. The judge raised his gavel high. Time to deliver the verdict. The courtroom held its breath, all eyes fixed on you. The mirrors cracked, splintering into shards that floated around like restless spirits. Your reflection fractured into countless pieces, each showing a different you. Some hopeful, some broken, some lost. The judge's voice boomed, "Guilty!" The word echoed like a death knell. But then a shift, a moment of clarity. You saw beyond the accusation, beyond the pain. You saw the possibility of change. The flames returned, but they didn't consume. They cleansed, burning away the lies, the guilt, the fear. You were left standing in the ashes, bare, vulnerable, but free. The judge's face came into focus, not a monster, but a mirror, reflecting the truth you had been too afraid to see. Your sentence is mercy, the judge spoke softly. Justice is not the end, it is the beginning. The doors to the courtroom opened. Light flooded in. You stepped forward, not as a defendant, but as someone ready to face the world. Part 7. The Bailiff's Shadow. The courtroom emptied, leaving you alone with your thoughts and the lingering scent of smoke. But then from the darkest corner, a shadow stirred. The bailiff. His form was tall and slender, draped in tattered robes that seemed woven from shadows themselves. His face was obscured by a cracked porcelain mask, expression unreadable. He approached silently, each step sending a hollow echo through the chamber. In his hands, he carried a set of scales, old and rusted, but still balanced. He spoke without moving his lips, his voice a cold whisper inside your mind. You have heard the verdict, but the burden of judgment is not lifted. He placed the scales before you. One side holds your memories, the other your regrets. You must choose which to carry forward. Your fingers trembled as you reached out. The scales tipped. Your memories weighed heavy, dragging you down. Your regrets glowed faintly, tempting release. A voice whispered from the shadows. Balance is the key to freedom. The bailiff vanished, leaving you alone to decide. Mirrors around you flickered, reflecting the countless paths your life could have taken. Some bright with hope, others dark with despair. Every choice, every moment of hesitation, every risk avoided, all piled like stones on your soul. You realized then, this trial was not just judgment, it was reckoning. Flames danced once more around your feet, but this time they did not burn. They purified. You closed your eyes, and for the first time in a long while, you smiled. Pardahori, the witness's name. Silence settled over the courtroom like a shroud. The shadows reformed into familiar faces, not just people from your past, but reflections of yourself. The judge's voice, distant yet clear, whispered, "Every witness here bears your name. Every accusation, every truth, a piece of your soul." You looked into the gallery, seeing yourself fractured. The friend, the lover, the child, the stranger. Each held a fragment of your story. They spoke without words, their eyes filled with both sorrow and hope. One by one, they approached. The first, your younger self, innocent and scared. The second, the version of you hardened by betrayal. The third, the version broken by regret. They encircled you, their presence both accusing and forgiving. The judge's gavel struck softly. Now you must face yourself. You rose, heart pounding. Walking through the courtroom, you met each reflection. You saw the pain you caused, the love you lost, the promises you failed to keep, but also the strength you hid, the courage you never knew you had. In the center of the room, a final mirror awaited, cracked and flickering. You approached and looked deep into it, not just your face, but your soul reflected back. Flawed, fragile, human, and ready. The judge's voice echoed, "The trial is not over, but the first step has been taken." You stepped back. The courtroom doors creaked open. Light spilled in, warm and inviting. You stepped forward. Part 9, The Forgotten Truths. The light spilling through the courthouse doors illuminated dust particles dancing in the stale air. But the warmth it promised felt distant, like a memory you struggled to reach. You stepped outside, but the world had changed. The streets of Mercy Hill were deserted, crumbled with neglect and time. Buildings leaned precariously, windows shattered, and vines strangled what little life remained. You walked aimlessly, memories flooding in waves. Voices whispered from the shadows, fragments of conversations, laughter and cries. Among them, the echo of a forgotten truth, a secret you had buried deep. You paused by a rusted street lamp, its faint glow flickering. Your mind wandered back to a night long ago, a night you wished to forget, a night when promises shattered and innocence was lost. The weight of that memory pressed down on you. You realized that the trial wasn't just about the past you could see, but the shadows you refused to face. The courthouse bell tolled in the distance, breaking your reverie. You turned and saw the doors still open, calling you back. You hesitated, but something deep inside urged you forward. Returning to the courtroom, you found a new inscription carved into the wooden bench. Truth is the first step to redemption. You sat, feeling the weight of the journey yet to come. Part X, the final appeal. The courtroom grew colder as the shadows lengthened. You sat alone, the echoes of the past swirling like a storm around you. Then a voice, soft but firm, broke the silence. Do you seek forgiveness? You turned, expecting the judge or the bailiff, but found only your own reflection staring back from the cracked mirror. The question echoed in your mind, twisting and turning. Forgiveness. For whom? For the mistakes made? For the pain caused? Or for yourself? A sudden warmth spread through your chest, a spark of hope. You stood and faced the gallery. The faces of your past watched silently. You spoke, not aloud, but within. I seek to change, to heal, to forgive. The shadows shifted. The judge's voice returned, now gentle. Then the court is adjourned. The courtroom doors opened fully. Sunlight poured in, blinding and pure. You stepped forward into the light. The trial was over, but your journey had just begun. Partly brained beyond the verdict, you stepped out into the dawn, the first light cutting through the thick fog that had clouded your mind for so long. The courthouse behind you began to crumble, dust rising like forgotten memories. You felt lighter, freed but not unburdened, because some truths linger, some wounds refuse to close. But now you held a choice, to carry the past as chains, or to let it guide you forward. The city awoke around you, indifferent to the battles fought in shadowed rooms. But inside you, a quiet resolve burned. The 12th courtroom was no longer a prison. It was a mirror, a reckoning, a chance. You took a deep breath and walked into the new day. Part 13, echoes in the dark. Long after the dawn broke, the memories stayed with you like shadows refusing to fade. You found yourself drawn back, not to the courthouse, but to the empty streets of Mercy Hill, the place where your story began and where it might end. Fog clung to the cracked pavement, wrapping the ruins in silence. You walked aimlessly, footsteps swallowed by the cold mist. Each step pulled another memory from the depths, a laugh, a scream, a whisper. The faces of those you had lost and those you had failed flickered in the corners of your vision. You stopped before a cracked window. Inside, a faded photograph lay on the floor. You recognized the woman, the one whose eyes were scratched out from your own photo on the coffee table. The pain was raw, electric, and yet beneath it all, a quiet hope stirred. You pressed your palm to the glass as if to reach through time itself. The sky darkened suddenly. A chill ran down your spine. Behind you, a voice echoed, soft but unmistakable. You are not alone. You turned. No one was there, but the shadows shifted, forming shapes, familiar and strange. Your past selves watching, waiting for you to make peace. You closed your eyes, breathed deep, and took the first true step toward forgiveness. Part 13, the last reflection. The fog thickened around you like a shroud, muffling the world and isolating your thoughts. You felt the weight of every choice, every lie, every moment you wished you could undo. But now, standing at the edge of Mercy Hill, the place where judgment and mercy collided, you understood something profound. This trial was never about punishment. It was about acceptance, about facing the parts of yourself you had hidden away. A sudden gust tore through the street, scattering leaves and whispering voices. You reached into your pocket and found the black envelope, not the one that started it all, but a new one, fresh and waiting. Inside was a mirror, smooth and cold. You held it up. This time your reflection was clear. No cracks, no shadows, just you. You met your own eyes, not with fear, not with shame, but with quiet resolve. You whispered to yourself, I am not my past. I am not my sins. I am the sum of my choices, and I choose to move forward. Behind you, the courthouse stood silent, its doors finally closing. But inside your heart, a new courtroom opened, one where judgment was tempered with mercy and the verdict was freedom. End of the 12th courtroom.